Good morning, folks. I have the pleasure of being up here in Maine and coming by Liberty Machine Shop with Seth Madore. Good morning, Seth. Thanks for having us over.
Good morning, John.
You have an awesome story. You know, awesome machinist. You know, really know what you're doing. Had time in the big boy world, and you're now running this on your own.
Yes, I am.
Can you show us around your shop?
Absolutely.
So we're literally in. Actually, this is one of the best stories ever. I met Seth at IMTS 2 years ago, and we're looking at a DMG Mori DuraVertical 5100 that he literally had. Well, tell the story.
Okay, so I wanted the machine. It was in my budget, and my customer really liked that machine as well, but my garage was too small for it. I only have an 8-foot ceiling. The machine takes up more space than that. And on top of that, my concrete floor was not cut out for the task. So I bought the machine. I had a foundation company come in. It's a 6-inch slab, 4-foot frost wall. We popped the machine onto the floor and then built the building around it.
You literally dropped this machine off when there was no building here.
I didn't have the budget or the space for a 10-foot door, and that's what I needed. And so I needed to put the machine in place before.
And built the building around it.
Built the building around it. Now people have asked me, well, Seth, what happens if you want to move to a bigger building? And my answer is, if I'm going to move to a bigger building, it means I have the money.
Yeah.
I can cut a hole in the door.
Yeah, not a big deal.
I can cut a hole, move it out.
Sure. So you bought this machine about 2 years ago?
2015. I bought the machine in 2015.
Got it.
Yeah. So it's coming up on 3 years now. October will be 3 years of owning this machine. Yep. I've been a machinist for 18 years. I've cut my teeth in the manual shop, then I moved into aerospace. I've done a lot of higher end aerospace work. This machine I was very familiar with. We had it at my previous job, and it was the workhorse of the shop. The quality just couldn't be beat. Never had reliability issues. Never required service. You just really couldn't beat it by any stretch of the imagination. So I bought this machine in 2015. Prior to that, I did have an old 1982 Matsuura that was sitting in that corner over there.
We'll see if we can throw a picture in from Seth of that machine. That's like old school awesomeness.
Absolutely. It leaked. It was noisy, but it ran. And
you did what you had to do. You started with that machine while you're still at your day job, right?
Yeah, I worked at my day job for almost 3 years between owning the Matsuura and the Mori. Yep. I was able to juggle both jobs, and it was stressful. And I was, there were days that I was like, please God, I used to have a pine tree outside. Please God, let that pine tree just fall on it, take it all out, and just retire from this whole idea.
But that's what I love about your story is you're in an awesome place now with having 2 machines running, but there was never this crazy point where you jumped off a cliff. I mean, it was get the Matsuura in, build some work, build some revenue, get going, grow into this, you're growing more, awesome.
Yeah, there was no point that I was like, I'm gonna do it.
Right.
It was very cautious, putting my toe, just slowly wading out into the deep end of the pool. I'm not one to just jump into the deep end right away.
Right.
And I had a very good relationship with my prior employer and my customers, and they understood my position, and it got to a point where I had the work and it became safe for me to finally make the move.
Right.
And so I bought the Mori, worked the 2 jobs for a year.
You had this machine while you still had a day job.
Yeah.
Hustling.
Yeah. So it was weird to go into work knowing that we had equal equipment at home, and it was like I could do this at home. I could do this at home, and I literally meant it.
That's awesome. Just shows that part. That's insane. That's beautiful, Seth. That's a phenomenal part. And you're doing that in 2 setups.
2 setups.
Which actually is a great segue to. I think this is I've heard such good things. John Grimsmo has this machine. The folks that we bought our grinder from, Okamoto, had 2 of these. Phenomenal hardware iron machine.
Absolutely.
And then the 4th axis is such a good punch.
The 4th axis is beautiful. So this right here will bolt up to my 4th axis.
Yep. So dovetail type fixturing.
Yeah, dovetail type fixturing, and the roughed blank, which would be held like right like this.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And I would do everything in this approach here.
Yep.
So that was operation 1. And then operation 2 would be to hold with an expanding mandrel on this feature here. Yeah.
Interesting.
So a 5C, they're available through MSC.
Yeah.
Other companies sell them. I forget who makes it, but yeah, it's an expanding mandrel that'll go into my 5C nose, pop it onto it, and then we do the other surfaces.
That's awesome.
They had a very tight, it's a 1 thou true position from this bore to these two holes here,
Interesting.
and I was able to probe it and run it just. I could have my 12-year-old kid out here just running the machine,
Right.
Because I let probing do all my work for me.
And Seth was showing us a really good example on his almost brand new Kitamura of where they're moving stock up and down, and you're using probing with questions and if statements to update stock, make sure you do things correctly, and that just goes back to process reliability.
Absolutely. Process reliability is what allows me to run as fast as I am. Otherwise, I'd be spending all my time double checking and triple checking and worrying about accidents. Accidents happen, but if you can bring as much as you can into your equipment, probe, did you remove the wrench? Did you tighten the part? Is the part oriented properly? Did you, is there a broken tool? Did the feature get machined properly? Is the feature machined to size? All these things that you can do before you take the part out. Process reliability. Yeah, it may add 3 or 4 minutes to your cycle, but you don't care because the part is worth more than that.
And I gotta say, I mean, everyone in the manufacturing world uses the word quality, but of all the folks I've had the chance to meet and get to know, I will absolutely tell you that Seth Madore here at Liberty has the highest standard I've ever seen, and we'll go over there in a minute, but he was showing us how he checks and inspects edge chamfers that need to be either 1 thou or up to 3 thou, and just the level of thoroughness that's just, I mean, you're good at it, and I know you're humble about it, but it's insane.
Yes, I know I am good about it, but every time I start to feel like I'm good about it, I'll break a tool, and I'm like, okay, reset.
Right. Really cool though.
Yeah.
So this is your bread and butter, your workhorse machine.
This is my workhorse machine. I wish I had more space in my shop, ceiling wise and floor wise, for another one, because they are just that good. I was ending up with a lot of work that left me twiddling my thumbs for 45 minutes, an hour at a time.
A common, modern manufacturing, the machine center's running for some time.
Absolutely. You tool it up, you fixture it right, and you can get a lot done in a long period of time. So what do? You could fiddle around and have fun, or it's like, well, I started to consider buying a second machine, and I needed a machine that could hold up to the accuracy level, the rigidity, and fit into a certain footprint.
I mean, legit space constraints.
Yeah, and it came down to basically 3 machines. Bridgeport made one that would fit. My Kitamura, or a Haas VF2.
Got it.
I seriously consider the Haas VF2. The problem with that was the side mount tool changer would not fit through my door.
Interesting.
It was
once it's in here. But not getting it in.
Well, no, it would not fit. It would fit once it's in here.
Okay.
I had to do full surgery on my header to have it moved in. My biggest thing was I didn't want to be maintaining 2 separate programs. I had my FANUC program, and now I have my Haas program.
Well, isn't that what you have now anyway?
They take the same.
They do.
They take the same. I can take this program and put it into this program. And what really clinched it for me, same pull stud.
Oh.
It seems like such a lazy thing,
fair.
but if you're constantly changing out pull studs, like, no, I'm going to lose time. And I'm going to be, I'm always going to be short. I need 10 more pull studs. And so this one it's the same thing.
So show us that this is pretty new, you said?
Yeah, I bought it brand new in May of last year.
Has it been that long?
May of 2016.
Wow.
Yep. I actually bought it in January, but I didn't take delivery until May because of financing and concrete work and whatnot. So I bought this machine.
And just so, I mean, literally, that is the door to his house. So we are.
So we're operating roughly out of 995 square feet. So less than 1,000 square feet, and I've got a full-blown machine shop. I run off of digital phase converters because I don't have 3-phase power. I would not go roto-phase converter. People want to because it's a substantial price savings. But for the heat and the noise that they produce, I just wouldn't recommend it. But these things are super reliable. And if I ever move to a shop that has 3-phase power, I can sell these for almost what I paid for them. They hold their value really well.
So this guy's awesome. I mean, small footprint. It's a Japanese machine.
It's a Japanese machine.
Yep. The steepest chip auger, and this is the stuff you don't think about, but we were talking earlier about how there are actually some shortcomings for the chip control, and that's something I hear about from everyone from Haas owners to DMG owners is, and you never think about it, especially when you're new to machining or new to a BMC line, is how important is chip management.
Absolutely. Chip management is key because next thing you know, you've got a flood on your hands because if the coolant backs up because your auger's clogged, next thing you know, you may end up with coolant on the floor.
Or you starve a TSC drill.
Or you starve a TSC. And I've never met a manufacturer that built their machine around the chip control. It's always like an afterthought. And as good as my Mori is, it's like I've had so many times of coolant foaming up, and it's like,
oh really?
It's like everything's an add-on. Let's make it work.
Really nice visibility. It's funny, I tend to see with the Japanese machines much more constrained or smaller windows or smaller access, but this is a really open machine.
Yes, they did. I do love the ergonomics of it. You'll notice that the table comes a lot closer to the door than that machine, and it's a couple inches lower. It makes putting a vise in very easy.
Nice.
Oh, it's very nice. Typically I can fit 3 vices if I want to, but I typically don't have that much production requirement. So I'll 2 vices or chuck in a vice.
Got it. What's the work envelope?
20 by 30.
Okay.
22 by 30.
Okay.
So I really don't use that much. You'll see I'll manually move the things around.
Woo, that is fast.
2,100 inches a minute.
Did you machine the back row of the table? Or that factory?
That's factory.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So that is my one complaint about the table, is that they put the bolt holes for the linear ways.
Yeah.
And it's like it's just a chip magnet. Chips
Yeah,
just like
right.
yeah, you get the VM4, so the VM3, VM3. So you must have with that grid pattern.
Everybody wants to own one until you got to clean it out.
So you got to clean it out.
Yeah.
And so they really maximize. I mean, you look at the size of the machine. And
Yeah.
it's a tiny machine. But then you look at what they did for the travel. Come in here.
Yeah, this is great.
I mean, look how close my OTS gets to the door.
That's great though.
So you're a couple inches off the side of the table.
Right.
It's not that much. And then again, the same way in the other direction. So they've really maximized the use of their machine travel.
Yeah, perfect.
It's got a 24 tool carousel. It actually holds 24 plus 1.
Yep. What's the spindle?
12,000.
Okay.
It is a belt drive, so at 12,000, it does have some noise with the belt.
Yeah, really low profile side mount tool changer.
Yes.
Which is actually kind of ties in with having a lower table though as well. And the whole machine's just lower.
The whole machine, it's very squat.
Right.
And one thing I don't know if you picked up on it yet, but
yeah, I saw the hole in this hole.
There's
in the
a
ceiling.
hole in my ceiling.
I saw that. Yeah. You do what you got to do.
You had to do it.
Right.
And so I had a carpenter come in and we built a box around it, so it's nice and insulated. So
Does that go through someone's bedroom?
No, it's the attic above. Someday it might be.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so to me though, what really stands out too is you not only have really good metrology equipment, but you know how to use it.
I do. So I've got a customer that has a requirement for a 3 thou max edge brake on
3 thousandths of an inch.
3 thou max edge brake. Yeah.
Max.
They'd prefer sharp, but I don't do sharp because then you cut yourself and it's very hard to differentiate between is there a burr here or is it just a sharp corner.
Interesting.
And so it's easier to give them a small edge brake.
Got it.
And so I've got an optical comparator with a 20 power magnifying lens. And so I'm able to come right up to the edge, zero off on my digital readout, and I have a 1.5 thou edge
So we're
brake.
looking at that, right up there.
That's correct.
1,000th of an inch, and
Yep.
you can rely
One
on
and 1.5.
1.5. And that's amazing.
And I can rely on that all day long. And because the process is designed to be consistent,
Yep.
I know that once it's set and dialed in,
Yeah.
then I have good results.
So you're interpolating that sort of a chamfer, walking, like a 2D contour. You're using a regular chamfer tool.
Harvey tool.
Harvey tool. Good timing.
Harvey tool, 1/8 by 90.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you check run out every
Yes,
time
I
you
do.
set that tool up?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
All of my finished tools I indicate in. All of
Okay.
my drills I indicate in.
Drills.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes. Tool life is paramount for me.
Okay.
I can't afford to have a tool breakage.
Yeah.
And so if a tool is cutting off to one side and then it walks,
Yeah.
so you have uneven chip load.
And you're using ER collets a lot?
ER16. Yep.
Okay. And so how do you do the tap method to
I
dial
do.
in? Okay.
I
And it
do.
works, right?
It works very
Yeah.
well.
Okay.
Yeah, you tap right on the nut, and you want to back your indicator away because you can have enough
Shock.
force that the shock will go through the indicator and then come back, and you can actually break your tool. A story I share often, and this is the truth. I had a 40 thousandths oil hole drill that I had to indicate in. Yes, very tiny thing. This was at my previous job, and I was new to indicating tools in, so I just left my indicator on it. I went tap. The tool went away. Where'd the tool go? The shock
From the needle.
from the needle.
Oh, so I have to confess, I actually have left. Well, we're not doing. We'll do 3/64 tools, small tools, but I've left the indicator on the.
Yep. It's good habit to back the indicator. The other reason is because most of the indicators have a carbide ball on it. Yep. And so you have carbide against carbide. And I've actually put a little tiny chip.
Really?
So brand new tool. Now it's leaving this tiny little ridge around the part.
Got it.
Yeah. So back the indicator away. It's safe. It's better for your indicator, and it's better for the tool.
Got it. Okay, and then we've got the Emmanuel CMM coordinate measuring machine.
Yeah, I have a manual CMM. I would not recommend that people buy a manual CMM brand new.
Right.
The price difference between a manual and an automatic, for another $10,000, you can get into an automatic. Yeah. And an automatic is really nice for throughput. Your time shouldn't be spent inspecting. Fortunately, I was able to pick up both of these from a guy retiring from the trade for, I've bought cars more expensive. So I picked it up for really cheap, and it's a manual CMM. I had it calibrated by Hexagon Metrology.
Okay.
They came in, they cleaned it down, they calibrated it, they did all of their magic in the software.
Hexagon is Brown and Sharp now,
yes,
right?
Brown and Sharp is Hexagon. Yep. So from my previous job, I ended up with a lot of contacts of people who to call. Who are you going to call? So here's this person.
That's an important part of it, though.
It's a very important part.
Right.
It's part of networking. And there would be times that, I need someone to do this. I can't remember who it was, so I'd call up my old employer. Yep. Hey, can I speak to so-and-so? Yep. Hey, who do I need to call for this problem?
Right.
And they'd give me the number. And it was really good for me to keep things going.
That's a really good lesson for folks that are trying to learn the trade or get into it. I mean, you worked as a top machinist at a shop for 8 years, and you left on great terms. You continue to talk with that shop, communicate with that shop, and even do work for them, even though you're on your own. So a good lesson in life of kind of do the right thing.
Never burn a bridge, because you never know when you need to go back at it again. So yeah, all of my parts get 100% inspection on these 3 pieces of equipment. I do documented inspections because my customers require it.
So this is really cool. We had the chance to go down to Mitsutsuyu and film using a manual and a CNC, and you're going to laugh, but I didn't really know how a manual worked. So actually, can you just show real quick? I mean, you're literally, think of it like a Bridgeport, where you're actually going to manipulate the whole...
Let's inspect this 1, 2, 3 block.
Okay, awesome.
This is a cheap Chinese MSC 1, 2, 3 block.
Sure.
It's not...
You're only using it to hold it. You're not using it...
I don't use it for anything other than just, let's rest the part on it.
Sure.
Because I have a piston compressor and this machine consumes air, when I'm not using it, I turn the air off. Otherwise, the compressor just gets more taxed.
Got it.
I bought the machine too small, the compressor. It was sized for my Matsura.
Got it.
And it worked fine. And then I added a machine, then I added another machine, and the machine's saying, stop it, you're abusing me. And so I tried to minimize that.
So these use air bearings.
They use air bearings,
which is why they're constantly consuming air.
So there is a spring return that I can control by this knob here. And as I put on heavier probes, it's just enough.
Tiny probe set.
Yeah, this is a 1 millimeter probe.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I have a 2 millimeter probe, then I've got a 3 mil and a 4 mil.
Yeah.
I also have disc probes that I'll use to check undercuts.
Look at that. Oh, that's so cool. Interesting.
Yeah. It's only used for diameters. I can't check depths with it because of how you calibrate it.
Okay.
But you can, but it's not kosher. And so let's check out this 1, 2, 3 block. So I've restarted the CMM, and I'm going to just start beeping features. So I've unlocked my axes, and I'm going to establish my first plane, and my
So
A.
you're just hitting 3 points on the Z on the top of the part.
Yep. It thinks it's a circle, but as soon as I hit the OK button, it realizes that it's a plane.
Okay.
Make my A. Then I need to give it an orientation. How is the part aligned to the table? Because it won't know. It's just like your G54, G55. It doesn't know where anything is.
What's awesome is I think we're going to be able to see that we can even check squareness of this block regardless of how the block is sitting on the table.
Absolutely.
Right. That's
Absolutely.
cool.
And so I want to make my origin right at this corner here. And so now what I'll do is I will make another line here, and I can do a relationship and establish my C. Yep. So now 0, 0 is right at that corner here. I want to measure this circle, I'm going to lock the axes.
Okay.
And this machine has the ability for fine adjust. Note to anybody looking at buying a CMM, if you get a deal on a used CMM,
Yep.
don't buy it unless it has fine adjust.
Fine adjust. Okay.
Absolutely. It's invaluable. Typically, I don't use it on a feature such as this because of how open the tolerances are. But when you're trying to get into smaller features, or you have to beep two very tiny edges, trying to do it manually. If you've had one coffee, you're like, jittery.
And that was the deal breaker for me. For us, we would want a CNC for automation and sort of what's the long-term goal for it. But also, what I didn't like that was a deal breaker on the manual is, unfortunately, it is subject to the operator's heavy-handedness. You can get different measurements depending on how you approach the part.
Totally.
The consistency, the velocity, the feel, and that's a deal breaker.
Totally.
No.
And feel is almost impossible to transmit to someone else.
It's a skilled labor.
Which is why I use torque wrenches to tighten my vise.
Yeah.
You know, how do you communicate tap this much?
Yeah.
To something? You can't do it. But you can say 100 inch-pounds, go until it clicks.
Seth was one of the first people I got to know where he knew off the top of his hand specific inch-pound and foot-pound numbers for different parts of how you tighten and how you know how little you can use. We use torque wrench to be consistent, but I haven't gotten to level 71 here of knowing what part gets what amount of torque, which is awesome.
And which we can go and show, and that information gets recorded.
Yeah.
And so that's the other thing that I wanted to talk about is recording data. How did we do it last time? Memories get foggy, so record as much as you can and as easy as you can.
Sure. When you're holding on that, on your DMG Mori, when you're holding with that expanding 5C mandrel, do you also torque that?
Yes.
Okay, because you're able to transfer a huge amount of torque, which will blow out.
Yeah. I've learned a lot of mistakes from my previous employer at their expense. The scroll on the back of the 5C mandrel, on the 5C collet nose, is good to about 150 inch-pounds. Okay. You can tighten it a lot more than that, but the screws end up breaking, and you end up, so 100 inch-pounds actually transmits a lot of torque.
Yeah. And there's not a good, those aren't, I don't know how to say this, a scroll is not a good back feed. Like, you can have it's a magnified amount of torque as you're pushing, as the input. So be careful you don't overdo it. Okay.
And so going back to the CMM, so I've made my A, my B, and my C. I've told it where the part is sitting, and I inspected that hole. Again, this is a Chinese gauge 123 block. It's a 357 hole.
Yep.
And it's 379 thousandths over.
Yep.
And 406 down. Now I can go through and I can check hole to hole if I wanted. I could check the squareness of the block. I could check the parallelism to the table if I desired. While it can do it, I'm still very fond of manual gauges.
Okay.
It's hard to, you cannot lie to an indicator.
Yep.
You cannot deceive it. I've learned how to deceive my CMM.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Interesting. You get the number you want.
Well, you get this, if you establish your A, B, and C this way, the hole is here.
Interesting.
But if you establish it this way, now the hole is 2/10 over. And so now it's intolerance.
Okay.
And so, well, how did you check your part?
Right.
And so that becomes a problem with the customer sometimes. An indicator, you can't lie to it. It's going to check parallelism. It's going to check run out.
That's a 5/10.
It's 5/10 brown and sharp. Yep. And I do have 10th indicators, but I only pull them out when I need to.
Yeah.
Because it becomes frustrating, such limited indicator shot. Right. Here we just have a basic single axis height gauge.
Yep.
It doesn't do anything more than point to point, depths, diameters.
Tiny probe though.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. And can you show the microscope?
Oh, sure.
This is really cool.
Let me
this makes me
pull
it's
apart.
Very different microscope than the one that we have. I like the one that we have, but you're going to see in a second when he pulls apart up here. Much easier with the focal range and the ability to see.
This is better than yours?
This is much nicer, I think, yeah.
Okay. So I'm just going to show this corner here.
Yeah.
Don't judge me on my pedicure.
Yeah. No comments on the manicure.
And so that is the same corner that we were looking at on the comparator. That's a
just the little bright strip, not this whole face here, just the little bright strip. That's the 1,000 or 1.5.
1,500 edge brake right there.
Oh my
And
gosh.
the same thing exists on the holes as well.
Wow.
That's a 1.5 edge brake. They want a 32 finish in the bores.
Okay.
I'm interpolating them with a Helical Solutions 5-flute stub.
Okay.
Beautiful tools.
Yep.
Oh man.
And this is stainless, 304.
304 stainless steel, yep. I have some brand loyalty for tooling because they've never done me wrong.
Right. Yeah. We keep hearing that. I mean, there's a lot of good carbide out there, but we've heard consistently good things about Hardy and Helical.
For general roughing purposes, almost any tool will do.
Yeah.
But when you're looking for that best finish, the minimal run out, the longest tool life.
Yeah, and you get to know tools, you get to know the catalog, you know the reliability. I like that a lot. Awesome.
Let's take a tour outside.
So folks, I mean, I wasn't kidding. Beautiful Maine up here, and that's the original garage, and that is the DMG house.
That's the DMG
house of DMG.
Yep.
Really cool.
The garage needs repair, and I've been putting it off. I'm a huge believer in deferred maintenance when it can be allowed.
Yeah.
And so it's like, yeah, it needs paint, yeah, it needs some siding, but it doesn't leak, so it's fine. My plans for this year are actually to knock out my back wall. Let's take a walk around. So my shop is small, 995 square feet. What do I do with my chips? What do I do with all my stuff?
Yeah. Oh, okay. No, that's
so there's my chip warehouse. I've got 35 gallon trash cans just lined up, and then when I have enough, I'll load them into my trailer and bring them to
that's hilarious.
metal recycling.
Yep.
That happens twice a year.
Okay.
So I don't, a lot of the stuff I do produces very small chips.
Sure.
Every now and again I'll get an aluminum job that's just like, holy cow, I filled up 6 trash cans. But I'm sitting on 3 acres of land.
Oh, wow. That's great.
So my property goes up to about 20 feet beyond the tree line. And I go about another 50 feet into that tree line.
This is great. Nice flat.
Very flat.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was our attempt at a skating rink this year. The weather didn't cooperate at all. It was like we had 1 or 2 good days, and so my goal would be to knock out the back wall and end up with a big pitched roof with a 10-foot door. So
that'd be great.
That would be great.
Oh my gosh.
Absolutely. That way, if I want to add another machine, remove machines. My biggest thing is that I'm out of space. I had a job not too long ago, and the part was about the size of a, I don't know, 8-inch square, 150 pieces.
Yeah, where do you even put the material? Like the workflow of all that, right?
It was awful. I had parts everywhere. They were castings, so they weren't heavy, but it just took up so much space. You know, you'd fit 4 into a box that was this big. All those boxes had to get stored out here, and it was just like, and it's coming around again in 6 months with 200 pieces.
It's good problems to have, man.
And it's a good problem, but it was just stressful tripping over parts, and my customer is very specific about heat lots, so material traceability. So they made this batch of parts at this date, and it comes with this certification. This batch was made, and so I had 20 pieces here, 40 pieces here, and if you get them confused, throw them both away.
Right. No
exceptions.
Right.
And with as little space as I have, it was stressful trying to keep everything maintained and separated. And there were a few close calls, but we got it done. And I'm looking to. I need more breathing space. You know, I'm not interested in adding the 5-axis, although that would be great.
Sure.
I just need, my computer, my office needs to be in a little quiet area.
Right.
The phone rings, I have to go outside to answer it. So all those little things really start to wear on you after a while.
Right.
I'm contemplating, just maybe another 400 square feet.
Yeah,
nothing big. What?
You'll do more. You'll do more than that. You'll do more than that.
It all comes down to money.
Right.
But
you and I like you and we get along because you're the kind of guy that has 10 syndicators and Deltronics gauge pins. But we're gonna keep the house safe, but we're gonna put off a little maintenance because investing in the things that we love and care about and make great parts.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Really cool shop, and I know you would love to be in a bigger shop, but getting it done in 990 square feet makes it work. Awesome. Well, thanks for showing us around, Seth. I really appreciate it.
Always a pleasure, John.